are you waiting for? This is X-Men Retro Recap. I'm Jared, along with Darren, Tim, and John, and we're going to be running through Enter Magneto, the third episode of X-Men, the animated series. Darren's going to start us off with a synopsis.
Oh, wow. So right after the X-Men they've lost Morph, Beast is in jail, and they're trying to uncover a terrible conspiracy to take down mutants. And then their greatest foe, many of them who don't know that yet, shows up, Mr. Magneto himself. That's what I got.
Awesome. So Darren, as we go through this episode, we're going to be highlighting a couple different things, as you've seen in last episode. So we're going to look at the most valuable experience.
Okay.
Aaron.
Oh, wow. Valuable experience. So I liked when Magneto was attacking the mansion towards the end. And then, that whole little dialogue when Storm's like, oh, take care of it with the missiles. And Xavier's he's like, come on. I run Cerebro. Listen, hear what I'm saying. And they don't really go into like what exactly she saw. She just knows how to fix it because Xavier said, I'll connect you to what I'm connected to, and don't be silly and sacrifice yourself. There's a whole lot of more episodes that we're going to need you for. So yeah, that was my moment that I liked the most.
How about you, Tim?
Well, the moment that I liked the most, and I think it was something that kind of set the tone for characters, was when Magneto tried to break Beast out of prison, and Beast decided to stay. So I thought that was kind of it's one of those things that when I was 10 and watching this show, it didn't really register that was going to be a long-term character development thing between Magneto and Beast and what their fights were in this cause. But yeah, ultimately that's something that I really liked. I thought was very important.
I think it's funny that Tim must be looking at my notes, because that's exactly what I was going to say in the exact same scenario, that when I was a kid, I didn't think that was anything. I was like, why wouldn't Beast walk out of jail? I mean, he could go right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that for all these X-Men episodes kind of jumbled together when you're an adult until you go back and rewatch them. But that was always one moment for me that stood out. So then I'll just point out something that doesn't make any sense to me I'll make that my excruciating moment. But me and Tim are on the same exact page with the exceptional moments. Beast having the opportunity to just walk out, that's the whole thing. That's what Magneto is there to do. He doesn't even know he's with Xavier at that point. He's kind of surprised by when Beast mentions his name. He's just like, no, I'm going to break out every mutant because the human rules don't apply to us. And Beast's like, no, they do. We need to work together. Like, it's a very simple, but it's the whole arching theme of Magneto versus the X-Men, right? Rules do apply. We got to work together. And that's what Beast said by staying in prison. So, a great moment.
So I guess for me, it was kind of as that episode as the whole, I felt like it really tackled these big grown-up issues. We had, nuclear weapons. We had persecution. Magneto used the word die, like D-I-E. He said it on a Saturday morning show. Hey, this was an episode that's very much written for grown-ups, but as little kids, we were just enthralled with it. So I thought it was really cool that this episode didn't dumb it down or talk down to the audience. So those are our most valuable experiences. They're so good. What are our most excruciating parts of this episode?
For me, it was Cyclops. Just like the whole when they're in court and stuff, and then when Sabretooth comes running in, this rampaging maniac, just throwing a wild mutant just attacking everyone, and then he's like, no, Wolverine, stand down, even though that his history. And then they're all sweet talking him, and he's like in a hospital bed living the high life and stuff. And then I just did not like how they did not listen to Wolverine the whole episode. I'm like, dude, this is Sabretooth. All right, that's what I got.
Oh, Tim, what do you think, man?
For me personally, I did not care for the little introduction montage that they had of Magneto's history. I did not care for that. Personally, it was one of those things that was just like, he really is angry at these people, but they didn't really give the explanations for why. And for me, as somebody who has now grown up and seen what his motivations were and the reasons for why he was as upset about this mutant situation politically. When I see it now, it makes a lot more sense. But watching it on the Saturday morning cartoons, it was basically just, this is the bad guy, and he's very bad, and he's the baddest bad that's ever been bad. Trust us, you know what I mean? And it was a very interesting little montage, but I personally didn't care for that.
Right. Well, I'll go with the first observation I made early in the episode is Beast is reading Animal Farm by George Orwell, which Beast is a super smart guy, and that's a super good book from a long time ago. It's nowhere near that thick, and if it was that thick, Beast definitely would not need his glasses to read it. Again, it is a good allegory, especially, that's why he stays in prison, because he doesn't want to be the pigs that take over and do exactly what the humans did to the pigs. So that's kind of a double entendre. Also, he kind of looks like an animal, so he should be on an animal farm. And then to Tim's point, I also didn't like, it's a minor stupid thing, but when Magneto flashback and he's like in full costume already. I know this is the cartoonized version, so everything's a little bit more, just simple for us youngins that watched it back in the day. But he's off his helmet, that he's affected by Professor X while wearing that helmet, which apparently must have just been modeled as a fashion statement. And then he later put something inside there to protect him from Professor X. But when they first met, it was just to look cool. So I guess those would be the animation on this one is a little choppier to me than the animation a little bit further down the line. So that would be a little bit more excruciating watching it now, 30 years later. So those things.
Yeah, I think for me, this was a great episode. I really enjoyed it a lot. So if I have to find something, it's that we're on the third episode and we don't see Rogue, Gambit, or Jean. So half the team is already not in the episode. One is in jail, one's dead, and then the other half just don't show up. Jubilee is in the infirmary. Professor X is talking to Storm about the nuclear codes, and then Storm, Cyclops, and Wolverine are saving the day. And this will be a theme through all of our episodes, that I like in a big burly cast. I like everybody on the show. So that would be the little bit of the excruciating experience for me. And now we are going to rate the episode 1 through 10 X's, 10 being we fell in love with it, and 1 being we don't need to rewatch it ever again. And we're going to do the same order: Darren, Tim, John, and myself.
I'm going to give it an 8. Magneto, his first appearance, I thought it was an overall good episode, written fairly well. I mean, all the X-Men animated series know how to fit a lot of stuff in a very short amount of time and make it work. But this one definitely stood out. And actually, to you guys' point about like the whole scene with Beast, that was one of my favorites too, when Magneto breaks the mountain and he's just waxing poetic, and all that, and which we brought up in our past episode too. That was I'll give it an 8.
Right, 8 X's.
8 X's.
8 X's. The original Wakanda Forever. Hi, Tim.
I'll go ahead and give it a 7. I think it was a good episode, good introduction to Magneto. It was a Saturday morning cartoon, so they crammed a lot of information in there. But ultimately, as a 10-year-old, I love this episode when I watched it live, when it first came out on Saturday morning. So I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I'm also going to give it a 7. I was close to the 8 there, Darren. I think it's the animation, watching it back, seeing it a little bit choppier now. We're so used to the smooth animation and even computer animation, everything we've been spoiled with over the years. That detracts a little bit from me, because as great of a cartoon as the X-Men animated series is and was, it wasn't stylistic enough, like a Batman with the with the Paul Dini art and everything, like the Bruce Timm. Those guys stylized it so you can get away with a little choppier. This is pretty standard animation fare. Nothing sticks out about it, and this one wasn't as good as some of the other episodes we'll talk about later, just on an animation standpoint.
I'm going to give this episode 8 X's. So I think that for me, this is one that I can rewatch a few times. I can enjoy it. I like how the first 2 episodes kind of showed the X-Men going against the humans and the government, if you will. And this episode showed the other half where they were saving the humans from Magneto. Ultimately, it works to continue to spread the table and lay out a good foundation for what we'll be expecting for the next 73 episodes. And so that's why I give it an 8. So for us, this episode gets 30 X's, pretty high. It's a pretty good result there. 75% of all the X's had were on this episode. So until next time, make yours the M6P.